it's really a whole different process behind the camera. I mean, the whole experience of shooting large format is certainly different than any of the other experiences. I routinely have to tell people when they ask what I do, and I say I build large format cameras. They're not photo people, and they don't understand. I say, well, you know, think about the guy with the sheet over his head standing behind the tripod in the movie. Well, I build the cameras that's, you know, the guy's looking through, and
it's holy.
And they're amazed that that anybody would still manufacture that.
You know, shooting a view camera is something that takes a long time to get good at. It's different. It's a much different process, but it's immensely rewarding when you get it right, and like the results are immensely rewarding, like what you can do with it. But I think like landscape or still life stuff is much more methodical, and it's probably really a better example of how it's used by most people, like the enthusiasts you talked about. I mean, portraiture on large formats, it's not unheard of, but commercially it's a little less common to shoot that much film. And I think most people, it's that process of focusing, composing, and like creating that image on the ground glass, is much more methodical, and it takes a lot longer, and you're immersed, like you kind of disappear into the camera. It's a little more of a transcendent form of photography.
Well, but you also mentioned earlier about the whole point that, you know, after you've done the quote methodical kind of stuff, which is really interesting, looking at the ground glass and getting that part of the focusing on. But with the portraiture, the nice thing is you're standing out to the side, and you don't have this thing between you and the person you're trying to photograph.
Yeah. Like you could be where you're sitting now with that camera is about how I'd be if you were taking my picture.
And so you really have this opportunity to interact that you wouldn't have whether you're shooting a roll film camera or a digital camera, because it's in front of you and it's always a barrier in between. And you just don't have that with your large format camera.
It's special. And it's cool that you guys make portrait films.
Well, yeah,
in large format.
I mean, the films have been just fantastic. You know, the over/underexposure latitude of those films, the way they render color, skin tones.
Like the NC, the 160 NC, and like a large sheet of that's incredible.
Yeah, and certainly the light sensitivity for throwing that much light around is an important part of the formula.
Well, that's right. Yeah. And you know, and the other thing that I really appreciate, you know, we're up here, we're talking about it, is that, you know, I'm standing at the trade show, and we've been here at Photokina for just over a day and a half now, and I'm standing in the Kodak booth with a large format camera, and I've had people come up to me and say, well, but where are you going to get film for that? And I think, well, I'm in the Kodak booth. Where do you think you get the film for it?
Right.
You get it from Kodak. Kodak makes film that size. I'm so glad to see that, you know, we're up here talking about film so that people understand that Kodak not only is willing to make all these odd-sized films that go into my cameras, but Kodak's committed to making film. Film's not going to disappear in the near future. It's going to be around for a long, long time to come, and people need to understand that. And it may be that what you do as a photographer works better digitally than it does with film. Maybe it works better with film for what you're doing. But the point is, you need to make an educated decision about it. You don't need to say, well, I've got to shoot digital because that's all there is, or I can't start shooting film because it's not going to be around. It is around, and it's going to stay around.